The US Justice Department has closed the last remaining investigations into the CIA's alleged torture tactics against its detainees after the 9/11 attacks without bringing charges. The cases involved 2 deaths in the agency's detention facilities in Iraq and Afghanistan. Well, let's discuss this. Debra from the US-based think tank The World Can't Wait joins me now live from New York. Now, this period of 5 years, which have put dozens of CIA officers in legal jeopardy, has finished with these 2 cases now closed. Is that the end of the story now?
Well, one would hope not. The world's population would have to hope that the CIA, the U.S. military, and the U.S. government has not literally gotten away with murder again. This possibly opens the door for international prosecution and findings that the U.S. indeed broke international law, as many people around the world think it did and has repeatedly in this 11-year-long war on terror.
You mentioned war on terror.
We hope it's not over. Those of us who have worked...
Sure, sorry, slight delay between us both. You mentioned war on terror, and the very word war means, of course, conflict. And some would say, well, of course, these sort of things do happen in time of conflict.
Well, yes, and that's exactly why international laws have been created, the Geneva Convention and so forth, to protect people who are being held without any rights by a government, whether they are combatants or not. And of course, in the case of the men picked up in the war on terror to Guantanamo, Abu Ghraib, and Bagram, the vast majority were not combatants in the war on terror at all. They were men who were picked up largely because they were in a country that the U.S. was in the process of invading, along with its partners in the UK and Australia and so forth. So, yes, people do die in war. There are bodies here of men who were tortured, frozen to death, men who died with their hands held over their heads, chained in freezing temperatures, who were beaten. These are men who were killed by homicide, not in war, at the hands of the CIA. And this was just one group of them. Then there were the men that were the prisoners and others that were killed at the hands of the military, and even who were held by the FBI in the early days of Guantanamo. There are huge stories here that we're just still beginning to uncover. And the outrage of this bill is that the Obama administration, which came in promising to put an end to torture, which you cannot finally do until you hold torturers and the lawyers that justify it accountable, this administration can only find fit to prosecute whistleblowers, not only Bradley Manning, but even the CIA officer John Kiriakou, who's being prosecuted for merely talking about waterboarding. So this is really a deeply unacceptable situation.
So just briefly, your thoughts for the future. Is this a sign that the CIA could never be brought to justice, be held account for any of its actions? Just briefly.
I don't know what's possible with world public opinion being brought to bear on this. I think that is the hope in getting any government to stop doing anything, and that is that the people's voices have to be heard, saying that we won't accept this being done in our name.
Debra, thank you very much indeed for your thoughts, your comments there live in New York. Debra from the US-based think tank The World Can't Wait.